Hey, Marshall.
Hey, what's up?
What episode of the podcast are we doing now?
I believe this is 40.
40? Episode 40! Yes!
Jesus
Yeah! Welcome to the Tilted Roll Podcast. Brought to you by
panicked
Natural
the
Water
dog.
RPG. I'm sorry, Frank.
You poor animal.
Oh,
Luckily
man.
I'm glad you moved over there now. Oh, the spot on the waveform. I wonder.
yeah.
I don't even know if float's gonna help that one.
The best $7.50 I've ever been.
Oh,
So
good
I
Lord.
had to buy something to get the cash back.
Okay.
So I was like, I got this cool hat.
Because there's not like 12 ATMs around here.
None for PNC Bank. They always charge. So I'm like, nah, cash back. Yeah. So
There's the one in Quick Trip.
listen, man, I didn't think that far ahead, and I wasn't aware that part. I just went to the Dollar General, and I was like, what can I get that would be an amazing bit for the podcast? So I bought an air horn.
Oh my God.
So I now have an air horn. It was funny too. I couldn't put this entire thing in my pocket. I had to disassemble it. I felt like I never felt closer to my military days than I did then, because when I moved my jacket over to here, to where we're sitting, I had it like this in my pocket, so I had to discreetly like pull it out and just put it in and then hide it.
Luckily, I had time to look at the camera.
But yeah, how you been?
Oh man, I've been pretty good. Slightly lacking in the work realm, but so have you apparently now.
Yeah. Hey, I quit my job.
Yeah, that's right. You did.
Cheers.
Not for this. We're not making any money from this.
Oh no, God no. At least not yet.
Hopefully, you guys can help us out with this by
yeah.
continuing to watch our content.
D&D Beyond.
No, the more we do that, the less chance we ever have of ever having them sponsor anything.
That's true.
Because we give them free advertisement all the time.
So we need to get a company's attention that will rightfully sponsor us. So Raid Shadow Legends.
I've gone on record about talking about that. If we somehow ever actually had like a Raid Shadow Legends like deal in anything, or if anything I did, they called me up and was like, "Hey, we want you to sponsor." I'd be like, there was a lot of times I would be like, "Absolutely," but you have to know. Because they make you send pre-scripts.
Right.
So they will know when I send them the script, like, this is how I'm going to do this. And it's going to be super memey. It is going to do the things that they want, but it's very much not going to be the way that they would want it.
But for people who are saying, who might say that, oh, you're being sellouts, no income to some income always wins.
Yeah, exactly. Here, one second. You
Right.
keep going. I'm going to fix the level up.
It's all good. So yes, I quit my job after a while. It was just my time to go. It's usually when you quit. For me, when I quit, when I put in my 2 weeks for a job, I feel this sense of like sadness, and I'm sure you've had this before. Just like
When I left the pharmacy, it was really sad, but mostly because I spent like 5 years there.
Yeah. Like there's that part of you that's like, should I be doing this? Like, is something that the people there need me to some points, and the people there are decent people. It's especially prevalent if you work with actually good people.
Lovely.
Excuse me. In this case, I had none of those feelings, and I knew that I needed to leave.
Yeah,
Except for the people, but then again, they're right. They know what they're doing. So I'm infinitely happier. I am enjoying the fact that I can wake up in the morning at whatever hour and be like,
and feel like P. Diddy.
Exactly. Just wake up and think, you know what? Today I'm just gonna play Pokemon Shield.
And then I'm going to yell timber. I'm going to move. I'm going to dance.
But yeah, so unemployment's going well for me.
So far.
Yeah, how's it going for you?
Just the downside. This is where the downside of like being in an off season and a very, not contract, when it's, even though despite that it's not a contract job, it almost kind of acts like it, which is a bummer. But this is the part of that realm. Though there are avenues that I am currently in the midst of exploring, which are going to be very interesting and may shape the temporary future for about 10 weeks of Natural One.
Ooh,
so,
yeah.
We'll continue to see how that goes, and when if anything becomes of it, we will obviously let you know if of any changes that you may see coming around Natural One. Not that would necessarily change a whole lot of the content, but a good amount of it. One way or another, the content will be changed.
Yes.
At least for a temporary realm. It won't be for forever. And maybe, I mean, depending on how they change and how they go, maybe they'll be for the better. Who knows? We won't know until when and if it happens.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I wanted to go over that I thought would be fantastic to kind of relive is the kind of going through the D&D books that came out last year. We did this on one of our first podcasts earlier.
Right. Yeah.
I wanted to do it again.
All right.
But then going into 2019, because you just can't get over the past, am I right? So we're going to go to D&D 2019 books here, so I can remember.
Ropes. You have your incognito mode on.
I do not. Let's see. I guess that's going to be our best. Let's see. Well, I guess these are going to be our best options here.
I guess me growing up would look like that.
Man, really only
clothes.
Man, so as far as they show for books and whatnot, really, they're only showing 3, but that's very much not true. Okay, here we are. Here we are.
Yeah.
There it is.
All right, so
there it is.
Let's see.
So I want to say one of the first ones was, and unfortunately these aren't sorted by date, but no article also helps me out here.
I think you might have to go into the Wikipedia and be like, yeah, when did these books release? Really might be the easiest way to do it.
Let's see.
I am burping a lot. So listen, we had lunch before this, so if you hear me burping consistently, I'm not apologizing. I'm just letting you know it will happen. But it was a good lunch. Never felt more like an assistant than I was on the road. I was getting coffee for my girlfriend, her sister, and this guy texted me. He's like, yeah, we're still doing this thing. So I picked up the coffee, dropped it off. Then we decided on pizza, so I had to go pick up the pizza. Mm-hmm. I went to the Dollar General to get money for the pizza and also wait for the pizza. Then I was stuck behind a train, and I had flashbacks to where I used to live, and I cried for at least 3 minutes until the train finally passed by. Then I went to pick up the pizza, and I tipped him $5, and the guy handed it to this kid who looked at me. He's like, "Thank you, kind sir." And I realized, oh God, I'm that person who.
All right, so it looks like let's move on. Let's move on, shall we? So it looked like in terms of releases, it looks like we'll start with the first release that seemed to have happened in 2019. At least in terms of it was an adventure called Ghost of Saltmarsh.
Oh, Ghosty Boys.
Which is right here.
Excuse me. Yeah, I'll hold it.
Hi.
Hi, hello. So Ghost of Saltmarsh, as you can see, there is the alternate cover, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and I didn't even pre-order this. I just happened to be at the game store one day, and this was just there.
Yeah, I won my copy through a raffle, which is pretty cool. But yes, Ghost...
Shout out to raffles.
Exactly. Thank you, conventions, where you only play AL and only AL. Only AL. So... It's Ghost of Saltmarsh.
Yep, with their totally balanced level 1 adventures.
Right. If I remember correctly, the setting itself was originally from, what was it, Greyhawk or Eberron?
Well, they list about adapting every setting to it in the beginning. So inherently, it's not really any of them. They don't mention Grey. From what I read in the beginning, I didn't see any mention of the area being like Greyhawk. So that was kind of I didn't see the words, and I don't know, maybe if I just missed it or something, but maybe it's based off of a part of it.
Oh, yep. Geoland, the kingdom in the Greyhawk setting. But like Marshall said, there is plenty of ways to adapt it into the Forgotten Realms.
Yeah, not even that. Just they actually talk about all of them. They even include Eberron, which is funny because that was a clear tell. But although they already had the Wayfarer's Guide to Eberron from that, so I mean, at the same time, it also did make sense for for mentioning it because it did matter. But I was trying. I don't remember exactly where they mentioned the other. I don't remember where in the book, like what spot they mentioned the other adventures. But they do mention like Eberron and Forgotten Realms of like ways that you can adapt it. I mean, every adventure I think should have something like that. Just in terms of especially like this one kind of being more setting based.
Oh yeah.
but it doesn't. I don't know how much it really like because it only lives in this small section of this like little coastline essentially.
Pretty much. I like to call these an adventure TARDIS because you can place it wherever and it'll make sense.
Yeah.
A previous book that's very similar to this, or at least the style of it, was Tales of the Yawning Portal. When that released some years ago.
Yeah, I would argue this one's a little better though, it being its own setting one way or another.
Oh yeah, this one gives you a whole town instead of a tavern.
Yeah, like Tales of the Yawning Portal, it's very much those adventures can just kind of adventures are very much built in the realm of just being like throw these in whatever adventure you have or whatever, like or just run these as one-offs or anything like that. Like it's very much not like a concise story, or at least while Ghost of Saltmarsh is a concise story, but it's also very modular, so it has the best of both worlds.
Right. It similar to Tales of the Yawning Portal, it is a collection of these older D&D adventures from previous editions that have been re-upped for 5e, and it does really well. Also, it introduces my favorite thing about it, the Marine background, because I'm not playing favorites at all, but in reality, ships. It offers up stats for ships and for naval combat, which has been something that a lot of people have been kind of making up till now.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to have, to be honest with you.
One thing that I will note is that it's, it didn't, the first release for that year, apparently at least, didn't come out until May.
Yeah.
And like we're getting one at least luckily this year going into March with Wildmount, but that is kind of note. But it looks like when the releases came, they started coming, and because like the month later, then we got Acquisitions Incorporated.
Oh yeah, this one is a little bit more personalized for me because I've been keeping track of I've been watching all the Acquisitions Incorporated podcasts that they've done on different conventions and whenever they have. I just love their overall dynamic in the story. Mm-hmm. It was really cool to see them have their own book because it is a group that's been playing for now I want to say 12 years.
Yeah, I mean I don't know. Yeah.
And they finally, they're canon, quote unquote, in the D&D universe now.
Yeah, so that was my issue. It was like when we were talking about Wildmount, was like, it's like you keep bringing these people in and calling it canon, but they're not because it's not being these things. A lot of these things aren't continuing into other realms of like the of the game. It only exists essentially by personal and homebrew-esque campaigns.
True, yes.
But still, they are full print, one way or the other, by Wizards of the Coast. And honestly, even if it was my own adventure, if somebody were to tell me, yeah, we'll make your adventure, it just won't be illegal, I'd be like, hell yeah, sign me up. I'm not going to gripe about it. Just because I'm going to gripe about it as a player doesn't mean I'm going to gripe about it from their perspective. If I was in their position, it'd be amazing.
Yeah, and the book itself is all about making your own Acquisitions Incorporated franchise.
Yeah.
It gives you these added things you can add on to each character to kind of give them a different little benefits. For one, I believe it gives you proficiency. Others give you special items, and it's really cool. It also gives you a mechanical beholder vehicle to ride in, which is always plus.
Just like all of the eyes. It's like, oh my god, what is that? It is us. It's like whatever your business is named, like
right. Acquisitions Incorporated. Put your hands up. And some of those, woo, and
I just start spinning red and white. Woo woo.
It's two different eye stalks that just flash at different lights.
Just rotate.
And it gives us that book particularly gives us some fun new spells to use, like Jim's Magic Missile. Which is the spell component for that is 1 gold because you're paying royalty fee to use it. And it's really great. Gift to Gab is something that Bennett uses in our stream a lot.
Oh my god,
it's
dude!
so
him and that Gift to Gab is so. It's oh my god.
What is it?
You don't even you don't need to start watching for long, and eventually you will see the Gift of Gab be used in the Ever Crescent Moon.
It's great, and I think some magical items from that book are showing up in Ever Crescent Moon too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're all available due to like the fact that we both share our content. So because of that, like we've all of the content we have is available to all of our players. Mm-hmm. So and I don't really, I don't have anything that we own in terms of like I allow anything that's been printed for like our personal rules, essentially both of us kind of stick to a relatively closer rule of like anything that we've kind of created / maybe some things we've approved, and then mainly just source material, because for the shows it's nice to kind of be pretty as vanilla as possible. But that's the thing, it's now that was in a book, so therefore it's available,
it's balanced,
and there's great things involved because of that.
The only reason why
I want to say that these things are balanced. Let's be fair. There are many things that have come out in many books that are not balanced.
That's true.
But, for example, College of Swords, never be hit again.
Oh, man. But yeah, so that was Acquisitions Incorporated. Plus, the artwork in there is so much fun. It's just, I like the overall
Well, that's
aesthetic
what's nice
to it.
is like, because they use kind of their own sources of artwork, whether it be fans or anything else, and Wildmount's going to be very similar, and I think that has great potential for it. Like that's something I really like to see, is them kind of also being able to bring their fans into this, because that's obviously what brought them there in the first place, is their fans.
And at least for Wildmount itself, it does have they've had several art gallery showings of just art from the community.
No, yeah, they've all done a great job of like purporting their fans and whatnot, which is good.
But that's a 2020 book. Let's keep on with the 2019 ones.
Yeah, like my birthday book.
Your birthday book.
Which was a day after, but still. Which was Baldur's Gate: Descent into Avernus.
This was the one that I was really excited about this year. Mainly because I was like, we get to go to hell.
And there's a map.
And there's lore and so much other fun stuff. Count me in. And we not only did we get a detailed description of the first layer of hell, we also got the chapter dedicated just to Baldur's Gate, the city itself, similar to what they did for Waterdeep Dragon Heist with the Volo's Waterdeep Echelon. They did the Baldur's Gate gets a tier in this one. And it's so much fun. Even if you don't go to hell at all, it gives you so much in order to run a campaign in just Baldur's Gate. And personally, I love Baldur's Gate a little bit more than Waterdeep, because in Waterdeep they're all nice to you. In Baldur's Gate, you're in seedy Detroit and nobody wants to talk to you.
Hey, Detroit's on the up and up, all right?
That's
this
true.
is Cleveland.
Sorry, Gary, Indiana.
Oh. I mean, I was gonna say otherwise. My point was like, hey, this is Cleveland. I mean, terms of like, I would say in terms of like people and their impressions, this is like going to New Jersey.
Yeah, effectively.
Because like, to be fair, like I know, like we get like I know the joke about both Cleveland and Detroit is like, oh, their cities are crap. Like, there's the whole the Cleveland tourist video, which I love that video. I'll never love that video,
Cleveland,
or not love that video, but yeah, in Cleveland. Our main export is, it's like, well, yeah, these trains are taking jobs out of Cleveland. But no, in terms of like the way that they act and the people act, it's New Jersey, like
effectively.
And like, because these are people that or New York or any of like these people that if you get in their way, they're gonna move through you instead of like getting like asking you to move politely. They're just gonna be like, hey, you're in my way, as they are punching you away from getting in their way. Like that's what Baldur's Gate is.
It is. And plus, not to mention that with this new adventure to come out for those who run campaigns, homebrew campaigns at home with music, you can just pull from the Baldur's Gate games and you have that music there. So there's a bunch
really
of
nice that way.
Yeah, there's a bunch of music and pre-established lore involving Baldur's Gate, and it's fantastic. The items themselves inside the adventure are always great to have, because gauntlets automatically make any weapons you're holding into magical weapons, and then you can do an additional fire damage too. My aesthetic.
Downside is then, though, once you get about halfway through that campaign, everything's resistant to fire damage.
Effectively, yeah.
Oh well.
Right. But yeah, no, it's fun. And who doesn't love fighting devils and dealing with devil contracts?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's funny because there was so much more of like a hell theme in Shadows of an Empire. It would have been really interesting to think about when I designed that campaign if this book was out. It would have made it just would have been a good thought process for me to think about, because essentially, inevitably, your final boss was Titilivis, which is right from Mordenkainen's,
Right.
Because they had a number of demons and hell bosses essentially. So it would have been interesting in a way, though, to have maybe either a different way or a different moniker of bringing in Titilivis and stuff like that. It just would have been an interesting thought to like have that campaign, or if like I could have used soul coins within that campaign, that might have had more of an effect in that type of setting versus maybe the Ever Crescent Moon. While maybe it's a sequel, at least at the moment, it isn't. There's been, you have fought zero devils
Right.
currently, so. To be fair, up until maybe now, I probably wouldn't want you to face any devils, but still, like, that's something that obviously like was very present early on in Shadows, and then wasn't, and it hasn't been now, and obviously more is to come in that adventure.
That's true.
So you never know what'll happen. But
and then before we move on to the next
great
book,
thought.
Yeah, what's up?
No, I was just saying that was a great thought. It was my thought about it. Yeah.
And then plus the release of this book.
Talking to the mic here.
Besides that, the release of this book also began the new season of AL, which is my favorite so far, just because it fixes a lot of things that season 8 destroyed. So yeah, like treasure checkpoints. I'm glad those are gone, as well as advancement checkpoints. Level up after every adventure, baby. Yeah,
pretty much, unless you're running a soft cover book,
in which case it's just hours.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's. I mean, definitely, I think it added a great, like in terms of just like the season. If you look at the seasonal stuff, Avernus brought a nice, really new wave into like bringing everything together. I think heading into the end of the year. Which pretty much just left us to Eberron.
Eberron. Oh, man.
Rising of the Last War.
Eberron, when it came out.
There are obviously other things like the Essentials kit came out, and I think actually we'll talk about that. But I already started Eberron, so let's just do that now.
Yeah, no worries. So Eberron, new class finally for the first time in the 5 years that 5th edition has been a thing.
Yeah, I mean it's a supremely important thing. The only two new classes that have been. I mean, there have been two classes that we have been aware of that they have wanted to bring to the game, and that was the Artificer, which at least now is officially here,
right?
And the Mystic, and the Mystic is obviously a huge problem,
right?
That class has caused quite a number of problems for many a DM.
We want to do automatic 40 damage just by moving the water really fast, Mystic, and not having to do an attack roll. Mystic. But yeah,
I think that they dipped too far into their 3.5 psionics Kool-Aid with the Mystic again.
I like to imagine that the Artificer and the Mystic had to fight off, and the Artificer ate the Mystic and absorbed its power and became a full class.
Honestly, based on all of the psionic stuff that has come out of UA, I firmly believe that we will soon see, I would say within this year, I believe we will see another UA release, similar to what we did with Artificer, another UA release with the Mystic. I firmly believe it, that it is. I think it is coming back. I don't think it is entirely dead forever. I don't think they would have did it in the first place if they thought it would never work.
That's true. That's very true. But nonetheless, we got Artificer, and we got a bunch of little goodies with Artificer. Like the one you're particularly a fan of. That would be the Artilleris.
Hold on. Frank! Hey! Stop leaning on the light. Leaning on the light's going to knock it down. Stop leaning on the light. You're going to hurt yourself and my equipment.
In that order.
But yeah, so the one I personally like the most, I have utilized the most because of different necessarily work-ins. I've used Artilleris the most, but my favorite personally is actually the Battlesmith. I love having my Iron Defender It's just amazing, especially based on the way it looks in the book. The sad dog, the sad robot dog. It's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but I love the Iron Defender. I love being able to utilize your intelligence modifier to make yourself a better fighter in the first place. It makes you this ultimate, like, battlesmith. Like, the name is so fitting because, like, you take your knowledge of, like, technology and everything else and you utilize that in your favor, and so, like, a great use of it, for example, if you allow for the optional firearm rule to exist, which it kind of does in Eberron anyway, a great utilization of it. Or not even that, but even with crossbows, battlesmith, repeating shot, crossbow or gun, never not fire again, and it does extra force damage. Who doesn't want that? And then not only that, then use, like, if you're level 6, use your other 2 current infusions, give one to your fighter and give another one to your ranger. Like, give a crossbow to your fighter and your ranger, and just, like, Valentine's Day massacre the enemies because they never have to reload.
Oh man,
dude, I love it. It's so good.
One of my favorite things about the new Eberron book was the fact that dragon marks are now a legal thing.
And a little more than it was in Wayfarer. Is a little better, I would say, formatted.
Oh yeah. I'm still a big fan of the Aberrant Dragon Mark just because of the story possibilities with that one.
I think it's still the only one that you can take with a feat.
Yeah.
The other ones are still technically at least in terms of the Eberron setting, the other ones are still kind of race bound, which is a little bit of a shame. I would have liked to see them somehow find a way, because as far as I used to know with dragon marks is that it inherently didn't have to be tied to certain races, but I think I think for the most part they were. It was one of those things I felt like you could apply.
Right. Nonetheless, Aberrant Dragon Marks, fun little thing there. New race options as well, such as the name is escaping me. The furries.
They added a few technically.
Yes.
So Eberron does bring in and these were all actually in. These all were in the Wayfarer's Guide to Eberron,
right? But
it brought in the Changeling, the Kalashtar, technically brought in the Eberron Orc, and then that one actually is technically new, I think, and the Shifter, which is, I believe, what you're referring to as the furries.
The furries. Oh, and not to mention the Warforged.
Oh yes, and of course the Warforged,
Marshall's most hated race.
In terms of actually running it, I actually wish more people would run Warforged. We got to have one in Evercrescent Moon as a guest, like as essentially as a temporary character, but I loved him. He was so funny. I just have a bad player experience with Warforged, unfortunately.
Yeah,
with them beating me to death.
Personally, I like Changelings as one of my most interesting characters I've ever played. I think I've told you about this character. Just had 2 personalities in them, brother and sister. And they changed back and forth until they had to finally confront the fact that they were a changeling and they could change it at will.
We can do this on our own. I'm just you have schizophrenia. You need help.
And it was a lot of fun, but that's why I like that class. I like these race options. I'm always for an orc class, so you don't have a negative modifier too.
It's nice.
It's always good.
Especially in this edition, it was very common for that to exist in 3.5. Pretty much every race had some type of negative modifier. For example, elves in 3.5 had a +2 to Dex. I think they had I think most of them had like a +1 to, I don't remember. I think it was Wisdom. And then they had a -2 to Con. But every race had a negative except for humans. Humans are the only race in terms of like base 3.5 that didn't have a negative to their to some stat. And it exists, I think, still even in Pathfinder.
That's true.
But they kind of got rid of that entirely in 5th edition. So when all of a sudden the orc came around, and it still had that negative to something, and some of the monster races, I think other monster races do as well.
Yeah,
like,
orc and kobold.
Kobold, yeah. You know, inevitably, yeah, sure, it somewhat made sense. Otherwise, they'd be very strong.
Right.
But they found a better way of fixing that with the Eberron orc, which is really nice.
That's very true. And like I said, I made a homebrew orc about it for Embers by Daybreak that nobody took up. But hey.
And then I guess last, because it'll be a quick thing to talk about before going into the end of it, is the Essentials kit that came out this year. You gifted on this podcast to me.
I did. Yep.
And I've used it. I use it for Extra Life, and I'll likely use it in the future, very much so, depending on especially how my new Monday campaign is going to go which is off show.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it could be like a really useful and nice thing to do and have. It's got a lot of nice things for it, and it's even good just for starting out. Like if you have at least played a video game RPG or any other table RPG, or you know at least one person, then honestly the basic kit or the Essentials kit is actually better than the basic.
Oh yeah. The big takeaway from it that I saw was sidekicks. Sidekicks were something that we all technically used but never thought about. They're like the NPC that you can add on to help a party. This one gives them actual stats to make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, not only that, it gives you nice convenient cards to work them with.
Yeah.
Inevitably they don't have the stats on their character cards, but you know what one they were referring to, and you can go into the book then and find where it has like warrior sidekick stat and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Which is nice. Having that type of stuff, and now that helps you if you're planning as a DM more than anything, as that's something I would argue that the DM should be providing to a newer player. But what's really nice about the Essentials kit for new players, and the reason I think it's actually better than the basic kit, is you get a more fleshed out like mini player's handbook than the one that just the basic kit, which just gives you
the basic rules, effectively.
Yeah, like which are inherently free technically. So it's like you get one subclass of like each one, or not even like it's pretty bare bones. Where at least with the Essentials kit one, you do get like every class like introduced to you. You do get a decent subclass introduced to you from every one. You get a longer list of accessible information, things like what you need for equipment, things that you need for spells, things that you need that you will constantly go to the player's handbook for. It's a more compact, accessible thing than the player's handbook is, and it gives you half off the digital version of the player's handbook, which is awesome, because then you only get the player's handbook for $15, so you can get all of the other subclasses that are available in the PHP,
which is always great.
Yeah, I think it's a way better value than the basic kit is.
Plus, not only that, it does come with a code for the player's handbook, but you also get a code to have the Essentials kit on D&D Beyond for free.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You get the total. You don't have to buy it twice like every other book. You buy it once, and it's always available to you.
Yeah. So, but yeah,
it was funny. I had this kind of I helped somebody at a Barnes and Noble. They were looking. I overheard them as I was turning the corner. Like into the D&D section, because I wanted to check out stuff there.
Right.
And I overheard them talking about like, well, should we get the basic kit or this Essentials kit? I don't like how they're not sure I'm not sure what the difference is. And they were like trying to look up the differences and like what people say you should get. And I like inevitably I came up to them. I was just kind of hanging out nearby as they were looking. They still weren't getting anywhere. So I was just like, hey, like, well, I was like, well, they decided to just kind of be like, hey, well, I'm assuming you're looking at these two. If like I was gonna ask them like, hey, how kind of used to or knowledgeable you are of like even just like video game or like RPGs in general, like at least at all what they are. Because if you at least know a little bit, I would honestly say like I would get this Essentials kit. Because I told them like everything it comes with, even digitally, is just like it's a better value. And if you have any inkling of what an RPG is like honestly, I would say the basic kit is really good, mainly for like especially kids, and people who really have never played any type of RPG before. Even video game ones. Because even if you understand a video game RPG, you can understand the Essentials kit.
Very true. Honorary mention, the D&D versus Rick and Morty.
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't bring that up either because it was one of my. I wasn't on that list, and B.
It's fine. Do you want
not my favorite thing?
Right? Do you want a salty player's handbook? Get Rick and Morty versus D&D. It comes with an adventure that's based off their whole thing. It's not too in-depth. It's just effectively that the player characters or the pre-generated characters are to reflect the cast, I guess, and all the rules are just explained to you with that Rick Sanchez undertone, which is cynical and sarcastic.
Yeah, but otherwise, while I would say it was a delayed, it was essentially mainly a latter half release schedule for D&D. It brought in, I think, really nice adventures. Like I would still say it was a decent year. I think we're still kind of hoping and waiting for some type of like Xanathar's 2-esque book. That's something that brings a lot of options to the table. Maybe Wildmount will kind of partly be that. But otherwise, I think that's kind of the whole thing we're still hoping for is some type of, big influx of content.
Maybe even a player's handbook too.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to do that again. I don't know if that's something that they're going to want to do. I would think they should. Especially because of the need for things like Ranger being such not a great state. I would like to see that for sure.
It'll be curious because then you'll have for AL, it'll be player's handbook +1. You can choose from either player's handbook.
PHB +1, PHB 2 +1, or maybe make it +2 wizards because you have 1,200 books at this point. Anyway,
yeah.
This is the end of the episode.
Yeah, it is the end of the episode.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Please don't.
That doesn't work.
It doesn't work that way. Right. It needs the funnel.
Yeah. I've been Marshall. Oh,
I'm Marshall. Who am I? There you go.
Thank you. Bless you.
All right.
I like how throughout the entire episode I just started leaning further down. But yes, I'm Marshall.
No, it's me. Oh. I'm gonna keep doing this bit.
Do it. Say it.
Goodbye.
Bye.
It's really hard a lot of times to know where you need to look for a lot of information. But if you're a new player, most of the time, you only really need to look for, like, you as a player should only really need to look for things that are pertaining to your character. Something like knowing what happens to you when you're frightened, knowing